I'm an individual who has to sit back still and listen to that and say, to God be the glory.
All right.
I have to still listen to all of that and recognize the fact that I would not have been able to take this step or that step, make that decision or this decision, had not God had an interest in my future.
All right.
Because when it was left up to me, in other words, when it was left up to my flesh, when it was left up to my own intentions, I'm here to tell you that I made some mistakes.
Yeah.
I made some very serious mistakes, and I made them very early in my life. I was blessed always with the gift of gab.
All right.
Yeah, I can say amen to that myself. See, because my gift of gab didn't bless me when I was younger. My gift of gab helped me to get a whole lot of whooping. You better notice how I said the word. I didn't say whippings, y'all. I'm talking about old school. I'm talking about whooping. Because you ain't had a whooping unless you caught it in the 1970s. Come on. I need to hear somebody. Or the 60s, amen. Or maybe even the 50s or the 40s, because see, back then, folk knew how to whoop and talk. Okay, I'm just saying if I'm talking to the right folk here. See, because in the the reason I say to the 1970s, because in the 1970s, it's like they built equipment for whoopings. Because some of y'all remember the belts that they used to have in the 70s, they used to have holes all down in them. And we had the 3 prongs, not just one to tie yourself down, we had 3 prongs. And the reason for that is because somebody in their mind, in the belt making company's mind, said, a mama's going to use this belt to whoop some kid. And this belt needs to be able to flow right. So we're going to put a lot of holes in this thing so he can get the point. Amen? So my mouth often got me in trouble.
Yeah.
And it started early in the classroom. I was what they call today a gifted class clown. In fact, if they would give degrees or awards for class clown, you would still be listening to my bio. I was good. No, I was really good. My stuff was off the chart. I was so good at being a class clown that I could make the entire class laugh, and then when the teacher, come on, Miss Lloyd, when the teacher would look back, I would just have a face like this. See, Lonnie, I was the kind you would have kicked out of your class. You tried to save me, but you'd have had a hard time. And it got to the point to where I became so good at it that a teacher decided one day that she was going to assess me at the 3rd grade. And that assessment, they brought me into a room, and in that room were all types of books. And in the books, they were tests. And I tested, and it was determined that my antics and my demeanor and my capability was as good as that of a special ed student. And so in the 3rd grade, I was placed in what's called special ed.
Wow.
Now, it's interesting what happens when one acquires the title of a special ed education, especially when you don't know what that means.
Come on now.
You begin to put a definition on that thing for yourself. And what I began to do was I began to figure to myself that if I'm going to be special ed, then I need to act what special ed is all about.
All right. All right.
And so I took my antics to the playground, and I began to be the mean boy, because that's what special ed is about. That's what I thought. I started to be the one that pushed kids around on the playground. I started to be the one that threw the dirt in the eyes. I was the one that stole the marbles and ran. I was the one that took the football and didn't want to play by anyone's rules, because I was supposed to be special ed.
All right. All right.
Now, the dangerous thing about this was that I had a big mouth but a little body. So that was good, actually, because I could talk my way out of stuff. If I had to fight my way out of stuff, y'all wouldn't be able to speak it this morning. I'd be dead somewhere. But I was really good at talking my way out of stuff and talking my way into stuff, and so good until I hit the 4th grade. And I talked my way into being this so much of a rugged student, I thought, that I came home at the end of my 4th grade year, and I saw a letter on the table, and the letter on the table said, that it was addressed to my parents. Now, I went to the type of school where they only send a letter home for 2 reasons. One, because you still owe them folk milk money. And you wanted their money. Or by chance you weren't going on to the 5th grade.
Yeah.
And so I opened the letter. And as I opened the letter and read it, certainly it said that I was not going to be going on to the 5th grade. I wasn't promoted. Now, my reaction to that was simple. And that is, I'm about to die. I'm not going to make it out of this. I have no will and testament, nothing to leave me with. And I am about to die. So what do you think my rational mind told me to do? Well, I didn't run, I went and took a nap. Because I figured I might as well enjoy my last few hours. Because when my mother gets home and reads this letter, she is going to kill me. So I did. I went and I took a nap. And my mother, see, you have to understand that I grew up in a single-parent home. Crack and prostitution house right next to my house. Nightclubs on both ends of my streets. It wasn't uncommon for me on a Monday morning, going to school to step over blood puddles of the night from a fight from the night before. We were the family who had to wake up at 3 in the morning because your mama saying, get down. Because you never knew what was going to fly through the house. And my mother was raising 2 boys. And so she had to take a strong hand. And she did, and I'm thankful that she did. And so when she came home from her job, she worked a factory job. She called her friend on the phone, Miss Almeida. I'll never forget overhearing the conversation as I was laying there on the floor trying to catch my composure before this funeral. And I heard her tell her friend, she said, girl, she said, I know he read it because the letter is open. I know he read it. And she said, I'm going to call you back. Well, at that point, you know how they say right before you die, your life's going. Well, I was only in the 4th grade, so that only took about a second. She walked into the room, and she said to me, get up, get up, get up. And so, you know, I stretched. And you know, guys, we try to put that hard look on our face. When really on the inside we going. And so I put that hard look on my face, and she said, you know what? She said, I'm not going to whoop you. Go on to the 5th grade. Drop that bomb on me. My response to her on the outside was, yes, ma'am. But on the inside, all summer I could play bad boys. Come on, Pastor, you know what I'm talking about, right? When you done got out of that kind of stuff, you were happy. And I was happy. And all summer I did play. Now you got to know that when it was time to go back to the 5th grade, you know, your parents start getting your clothes together. And you know, let me just testify for those of us that did grow up in the 1970s. Y'all, we made it out. Because y'all, you remember, y'all, they were dressing us in tough nut and tough skin jeans. We had yellow and red and green jeans, y'all. That were bell bottoms. It's amazing that the kids today even know how to dress based on how we dress. Y'all doing well. And so there it was, first day of 5th grade, or first day of the school year with my red bell-bottom tough nut jeans on from Sears. We're playing that morning, and the 5th grade bus pulled up, and when it pulled up, a big hand came down, and it was like the bus driver was saying, no, you're not on my list, son, you're going on the 4th grade bus. And so the 4th grade bus pulls up, and I stepped on the 4th grade bus, minister, and it took me to 4th grade, and there I was in a class, new class, and when I walked into the class, it was as if someone had decided that I was going to be in the class with every student that was a misfit. Because when I walked into that class, there were spit wads flying and paper airplanes going, and I'm telling you, just absolute chaos. And the teacher walks in, and the teacher happened to be named Miss Sargent. I'm not making this up, y'all, because I know half of y'all right now thinking, now he just up there lying. I really am not. Her name was Miss Sargent, and when Miss Sargent walked in, she walked into the front of the class. She noticed me in the back. And see, I got to mention that part because there's something about having a back row attitude that'll keep you in a place that you were never meant to be. And what I did not recognize at that point in my life was that my life had been a back row attitude. And so Miss Sargent recognized that to me. That's why I'm so thankful for the educators that are a part of this congregation, and Miss Ronnie Lloyd and others that are here, because this woman saved my life. She looked back in that back row and she said to me, she said, Anthony Jones, this is what she said, and I write about this in my book, by the way. She said, Anthony Jones, she said, I taught your mother and your father She said, I expected the best out of them. Now I expect the best out of you. Get your things and come to this front row. And since that point, I've lived the front row. Now, I will say to you that that story is one that I enjoy telling because it explains the fact that when I graduated from my undergraduate institution, it says in my bio that I graduated with honors. Really what happened is that I graduated 5th in my class. I was inducted in the Phi Beta Kappa, which is the highest honor society in the nation. And when I did go to Vanderbilt, I went on full scholarship and full fellowship. Thank you. Now, here's why I took the time to mention that. Certainly not to boast, but this is why. Because that was in me when I was assessed in the 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Come on, somebody. That was in me
Come on.
when I was sitting on the playground talking about beating up folk and throwing dirt in their eyes. I had that in me the whole time. But you see, sometimes life can be like an onion peel, where things are placed upon you, layers of expectations that sometimes are not adequate, are layered upon you, and you get so comfortable with the taste of the onion and the leeks
Come on now.
that you truly don't understand that there is a marvelous pearl on the inside. And so what I'm here to tell the graduates today is that there is something outstanding in you that life has a way of pulling back to reveal. And this stage that you've gotten to in graduation is only one of the stages that begins to pull back who you truly are. See, I can remember my high school graduation. I graduated in a high school class of over 460 students. Less than 70 of us were black students. And so you'd imagine that when it was class day, this one and that one got this scholarship and that scholarship. I had no cords to put on my robe. I had no medals to put around my neck. In fact, my last name is J, so I was right in the middle of the troop. So it was a plain experience for me that way. But again, I was coming out of something. And then when I got to my freshman year of college, here I was coming out of the sugarcane fields of Louisiana, country boy. Now country folk, I was country because I starched and ironed everything. I remember the folk from New York, I would show up in class, starched and ironed, they'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you ironing, right? I was country, but here I was country enough to know. I was country enough to know who I was. Amen? Amen. Now, some of y'all didn't get that, because some of y'all don't know what it's like to grow up in Smith Creek country. Come on. But if you know that you've got something going on for yourself, it doesn't matter where you grew up. And I knew that, and so I began to make contacts in this one. And by the end of my freshman year, I was actually voted freshman class president of the school. And by the end of my senior year in college, I was student body president. And I was intentional, by the way, brothers, that I wasn't coming up out of college with someone on my arm that wasn't going nowhere. And so I talked this pretty little gal into liking me. I worked hard on it, Pastor. It took me 4 years to get her to really like me. And at the end of that 4 years, the moment she said that she did, I gave her the ring. I didn't want her to change her mind. Amen. I'm just teasing. That's my wife, Tanya. We met my freshman year of school. And let me just say this to the young ladies in the group. She really was my rock in school. Because when I approached her early on in our relationship and I tried to, use my little Mac ways, her first question to me was, what are you majoring in and what are your intentions? And she didn't want to marry no chicken head. And she was going to dental school and she didn't want anybody to mess that up. And so this takes me to the end of my message today. And I promised that I wouldn't be long, but I have just one last word to leave with you. And that is that for the